Hello and welcome to the Top Order podcast. Another one-sided match at the Cricket World Cup overnight, but maybe not the result we were expecting, Baldy. England, Afghanistan, Delhi, all coming up right after this. Baldy, massive upset overnight at the Cricket World Cup. We've had Afghanistan beat England. Is this the biggest World Cup upset in World Cup history?
Well, it's certainly one of. I've been fumbling for superlatives all morning, Stu. I've been up for about an hour and a half looking through results of Rugby World Cup, of Cricket World Cup, and I couldn't find the right superlatives to describe the momentous occasion that is Afghanistan beating England in surely one of, if not the greatest upset in the history of World Cups. I mean, you go back, England 2011, Ireland, Pakistan, that famous game in 2007, Kenya beating the West Indies in 1996, and then you go all the way back to Zimbabwe beating Australia in the 1983 edition of the World Cup, you know, that side featuring Lillian Thompson and so forth. But for Afghanistan to beat the defending, reigning champions,
tied champions,
trophy holders. You can put the asterisk on it if you want to, Stuart. I'll allow that. Raiding, defending, holding champions to go down to Afghanistan. This is the most significant moment in the history of Afghanistan cricket, and probably the greatest day, barring marriage and birth of children, in the lives of any of those young Afghani cricketers. Huge earthquake in Afghanistan this week, a country looking for solace, looking for joy, and their team has provided it to them in spades. They should be so proud of themselves. I'm so excited, not because England lost the game, but because Afghanistan put together not a complete performance, but a performance that was worthy of victory against a great England side.
I've got a stat for you that I won't take any credit for. I saw it. Nick Friend posted it on Twitter. This is the 43rd country that Mohammad Nabi has beaten in international cricket. How about that?
That is outstanding.
Yeah.
That is absolutely outstanding. That was his 150th game, I think, last night. A couple of Afghanistan players rocked up some milestones in that game, and yeah, to beat 43 countries, just incredible. It's an incredible stat.
Yeah, staggering. I thought that was really good. But I mean, let's go back to the start of the game then. England decides to bowl first, basically for no reason at all, apart from the fact that they wanted to chase. And I guess when you do that, you run the risk of the opposition putting up a good score and putting yourself under pressure. And that's exactly what Afghanistan did. They came out absolutely flying. England came out incredibly sloppy. First ball, Woakes bowls it down the leg side. Butler surely should have taken that. You know, it wobbled a little bit, but very sloppy.
It did wobble a bit.
Yeah, very.
England were uncharacteristically poor early, I thought. I watched the first 10 overs of that game live, and I just wonder if I don't know if it's an England thing, but occasionally you see the first ball of a game set the tone for England for a particular match, sometimes even a series. Let's hope that's not the case for this England one-day side, but certainly that wayward delivery from Woakes caused some issues early on. I think they've got concerns for Woakes. We'll come back to Woakes' form in a little bit, but let's not take away any credit from Afghanistan's intent and approach early on in that game. Gurbaz and Ibrahim, the engine room of that Afghanistan batting lineup, we talked about it in the preview of the show. If Afghanistan were going to get big runs in this tournament, they had to get massive contributions from those two at the top of the order, and they delivered in spades. They were ferocious on any width that England offered. England offered plenty of width from Woakes early doors. I actually thought Reece Topley bowled, pretty well in his first 2 or 3 overs. I thought he swung the ball a little bit. He kept the ball quite tight to both batters. But when Woakes offered width, they were both absolutely ferocious in their pursuit of that, and they just smashed them through the offside. I thought it was like watching a middleweight boxer, that perfect combination of power and speed through the hands. They were just fantastic. Gurbaz in particular, he was just awesome through the offside. And you can't give width to international quality batters. They will destroy you. And with all the fielders up, England were on the back foot, and it took them a while to adjust. It took them a while to put the deep point back, bring the third man up. Then they started running the ball. Look, it was just a fantastic first 10 or 15 overs for Afghanistan to get them through to 100 without loss.
Yeah, I mean, Gurbaz in particular, he's just fearless, eh? He just plays with such freedom. He goes out there. I mean, I guess this isn't really a surprise that he does that. Like you said, we talked about him a little bit in the preview. We've seen him now in the IPL. He is only 21, which is still kind of staggering. But like he scored 100 in the warm-up against Sri Lanka, scored 47 in the opening game against Bangladesh, scored 21 against India, and now 80 off 57 balls. I think the thing is with Afghanistan is that because they got so, comfortably beaten by India in their last game, you sort of forget the fact that they put up 270 against that bowling attack. So, it's not like they're a side that can't score runs. They certainly can do that. And I mean, yeah, they were 100 for none after in the 13th over. I think Gurbaz was smashing it all over the place, and yeah, it looked like they could pile on. They ended up on 280, but it looked like they were going to score a lot more than that at various points in that innings.
Yeah, a couple of sliding doors moments in this innings. Firstly, the kind of dismissal of Zadran in that 16th over just started to put the brakes on a little bit. They sort of lost 2 for 10. And ended up being 3 for 10 when Gurbaz was run out. And to me, that was the first real sliding doors moment of this match, because if we know anything about the Afghanistan team, it's that they're heavily dependent on their top four for runs. And there was an opportunity there for England, having worked their way back into the match, from 100 for none to now 120 for 3. If England were to take wrest control of the game, they really had to then go and run through the middle order for Afghanistan and they could have had them all out 170, 180 at that point, right? There was an opportunity there for England to run the slate pretty much and to be only chasing, a maximum of 210, 215, which is what they got anyway. And I think that would have been a cakewalk for them. But as it was, there was a bit of resistance in there, a couple of good partnerships, and they managed to work their way up towards 280.
Yeah, and I guess England probably did that, to be fair. They got it to 190 for 6. Rashid, Livingston, Wright, kind of the spinners came in and did a really nice job. But I think we've seen it a little bit in this World Cup. Some sides have gone out hard and really set themselves, got themselves off to flyers. Other sides have taken their time to build up in that first 10. They sort of haven't viewed it as let's go out and get as much as we can while the field's up. They've kept wickets in hand. Afghanistan did both, but what Gurbaz's innings kind of gave them is it gave them the opportunity to, when they lost those wickets, to actually take their time. So Ikram Ali Keel was able to, just dig in for a little bit, build a little bit of momentum for himself, and then ends up getting 50 off, 50 odd off 60 odd balls. So, kind of catches up a little bit at the end. Mujeeb and Rashid come in some cameos, and suddenly you're up to 280, and it's a very competitive score.
100% agree. And I think that's the failing of a lot of the other middle orders of this World Cup, is that I think players are forgetting that you can take 5 overs to rebuild your innings.
Yeah.
You can take 10 or 15 or 20 balls to get yourself set in an encounter, particularly when, if it's a little bit up and down, or if it's a little bit sticky or whatever, to get the pace of the pitch. Because every international cricketer now can catch up. Every one of them can go from, 10 off 20 to 50 off 40 if they need to, and it's no surprise that, having taken the opportunity to rebuild their innings a little bit, as you say, from 120 for 3, having lost 3 for 8, and then 190 for 6, having lost, those 2 wickets of Shahidi and Mohammad Nabi, to then build again through some great partnerships. I thought the contributions from the spinners with the bat, Rashid and Mujeeb, to bat with an established player, at least Rashid did, to build back their innings was so important to not just the confidence of the batting unit, but the bowling unit as well, to give them something to bowl at, and that they could then go out, and then Afghanistan could be attacking with the ball, have slip fielders in, have catches in place, try and take wickets. So huge contributions from that tail. They can't be understated.
And before we move to the Afghanistan bowling effort, England's batting effort, should we have the England seamer conversation? Because Afghanistan's going to get a lot of praise out of this, but I think a lot of the conversation will also be about, England and their struggles and what's going on for them. And I mean, we just talked about the England spinners. England spinners, I did run some stats on this game, just this game in particular. 94 for 5 off 24 overs from their spinners. Woakes and Curran 4 overs each, 8 overs, none for 87. And if you look at this whole tournament, even Chris Woakes has 135 for 2 off 18 overs, going at 7.5 and over. Sam Curran 140 for 2 off 17.2, going at 8 and over. So there's some big problems there for England, isn't there?
Huge problems in their swing bowling department, and it's not the area that we thought would be a weakness, a challenge for them. We had a look at that lineup in the preview to the World Cup, and we thought, that's one of the strongest swing bowling attacks that are going around. And if you think about England's strength, it's to be able to swing the ball early, and there was some swing there, but it just so happened that Woke started so poorly that it allowed both batters to get away, to get a couple of shots under their belt and get some confidence. And then after that, they were able to go through the line and hit deliveries that maybe weren't quite there to be hit. They did get away with a little bit. There was one that could have gone to hand to Joe Root, I think, in the gully. That probably was a tough chance. It just didn't quite pick it up. It was hit pretty ferociously, as we said. But this challenge of swing bowlers getting a bit of tap early doors is not just England's problem. It's a problem for a lot of sides in this World Cup. We've seen lots of spin attacks perform particularly well. We think about India. We think about New Zealand's spin attacks done very well. Even England's spin attack here has done very well.
Yeah.
I think they're going to start thinking about, well, we like having Mark Wood bowl in those middle overs, but maybe we need to have a little bit of Mark Wood early before the batters are set. And I think they need to think about, well, do we get a little bit more from our side by having Mo Ali in that bowling unit? And I know they've got lots out of Liam Livingstone, 1 for 33 off his 10. That's the first time he's bowled 10 overs in an ODI. He was excellent.
Really?
Yep. First time he's bowled 10 overs, I believe, in an ODI. I could be wrong there, but I think I heard that stat on the commentary. They just need to get something out of either Curran or Woakes. I thought Reece Topley was good. I mean, it looks like he's gone for almost 6 and over in the stat line, but his first 2 overs were accurate. They held the batters in check. If they could get something from the other end, I think they would have been in a good position.
Yeah, and I think they're going to have to think pretty hard about David Willey as well. Obviously, someone who's been in and around the squad, always sort of done a good job. They've got Gus Atkinson in the mix as well. Yeah, Mo Ali. They've got some options. Ben Stokes sitting on the sideline, although we don't think he's going to bowl. But look, we should now talk about England's batting, I think, and particularly Afghanistan's bowling probably as well. 280, we saw the other day, as I said, India chased that down in 35 overs against Afghanistan. They were able to do it very comfortably. I'm sure England sort of looked at that score and went, okay, 280's been quite easy to chase down in this World Cup so far. We're in business. But straight away, Afghanistan, Faruqi gets Bairstow, Mujeeb skids one through Root. That was a cracker. And then, Nabi beats Milan in flight, 63 or 64 for 3, and it's game on.
Absolutely. Let's break that down a little bit, because as poor as England were early with the ball, I thought Afghanistan were excellent. I have to say, though, that leg stump on DRS is a bit like Grandma's 90. It's covering everything at the moment. There are a lot of LBWs given out hitting that leg stump. It's. Do you remember when Mark Taylor was out of form in the 90s and he was presented with a bat that was about 1 metre wide getting off the bus in England by a reporter? Yes. I reckon it's the same with that leg stump. That leg stump is a very, very wide leg stump on DRS. Look, Johnny Bairstow, I think, could probably be forgiven for being a little bit unlucky there. But certainly the Afghanistan bowlers were absolutely on fire. Let's talk about spin a little bit, because the delivery from Mujeeb that got Joe Root, yes, it kept a little bit low. And I think it's probably fair to say that wicket did a little bit when England batted second time around. It was a little bit up and down. There were a couple that kept low. But Afghanistan put the pressure on by bowling accurately. They bowled at the stumps. They had attacking fielders in place. And when it does a little bit in the subcontinent and you're on the money, you get the rewards. And, Mujeeb, Mohammad, Nabi, Rashid Khan, experts at exploiting those kinds of advantages. And they were, again, outstanding. Absolutely outstanding.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that I think I said it before. When you put the other opposition in, you run the risk of, right? You run the risk of putting yourself under some pressure. You lose some early wickets, and a spin attack like those three with, truckloads of experience around the world in all sorts of different leagues. I think in a case like this, the T20 experience helps them an extraordinary amount because of the way that they know how important dots are, and they can just build up some dots. And as soon as they did that, they're building that pressure. Remarkable when you look through that England batting lineup, the batting card, the strike rates. I think only Harry Brook and then Reece Topley and Adil Rashid at the end are over 85 strike rate. So, that's just something you do not expect from this England side. Afghanistan were able to build up pressure, and then, just pick up wickets along the way when England tried to hit out, or actually even a lot of the times it wasn't even England hitting out. It was England getting castled or, getting bogged down and sort of, getting bogged down on the crease. I mean, you know how much I love a through the gate and hit the poles. And honestly, even the seamers, Naveen's one to Butler, that was very nice. Mujeeb does it again. It was very, very good to watch, from an Afghanistan point of view, but from a neutral point of view as well.
Oh, look, the neutral in me is so excited for Afghanistan to be successful on the World Cup stage. I mean, particularly given recent events in that country from a natural disaster point of view. I didn't mind that England took their time to try and get back into the game. I mean, we just talked about it in the Afghanistan innings, right? It's okay to be like 11 off 17, 9 off 18, 10 off 14, 10 off 23, 9 off 26, if you then go on to be 50 off 60, or 60 off 60 as Harry Brook, went and did it, right? But England needed at least one, if not two of those middle order guys to stand up alongside Harry Brook, put a partnership together. And I think that would have put the cat amongst the pigeons as far as England's batting were concerned, because one big partnership in that game is all that was really going to take. But they didn't have a big partnership, 30, 30, 30, 20, 20, 30, and then it started to fall away.
A pattern here.
Yeah, so they got little partnerships all the way along, but Afghanistan did such a good job to hold their nerve and attack England, particularly with their spinners, that they didn't fall into that trap of, okay, there's a partnership building here, we're just going to try and restrict it, we're just going to try and dry the runs up a little bit. I mean, they were able to do that. You have a look at the dot ball counts for all of their spinners in particular, and they're excellent, 50% or more dot balls from the three spinners. And, even though Faruqi and Naveen went at sevens, their spinners were so good that they were able to put pressure on at least from one end. And that was really England's undoing.
Look, I think we probably talked enough. I mean, there's not really much more to say about that innings because Afghanistan controlled it so well. As you said, 160 for 7, 169 for 8. It was all over very, reasonably early into that innings, the way that they controlled things. What does this mean for the tournament now, though? We've got England, South Africa next, which, shapes as an absolutely huge match for England. Afghanistan has New Zealand next. And if they can pull out another performance like that against us, I very much hope they don't. But if they do, then, that's going to throw the tournament absolutely wide open. What about that England-South Africa match, I think, in what that means for this tournament?
Oh, this tournament is now wide open because you have a look at the two semi-final contenders going into this tournament, Pakistan and England, have both lost games in their first three, and that's really made this tournament very, very interesting from a table perspective. As you say, Stuart, England's slate of games coming up: South Africa, Sri Lanka, and India. Huge, huge games for England. England now at 1 and 2 are in a similar position to Australia. They must win 5 out of the next 6, I reckon, to be able to be genuine semi-final contenders, which means they can't slip up against South Africa and India. They certainly can't slip up against Sri Lanka, and their last game against Pakistan will be a game that I think will go a long way to determining whether or not England or Pakistan get into the semi-finals. So it's all to play for. It's actually opened up Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Australia. It's opened the door for those sides, if they can win through 3 or 4 games on the trot, to get themselves in contention for that top 4. It certainly does favours for India and New Zealand, who are thus far undefeated. As you say, New Zealand have got Afghanistan next, and then India. Afghanistan are going to be riding high from this game. They're not going to fear New Zealand. They're certainly not going to fear New Zealand's pace attack, having dismantled England's pace attack. So it'll be a fantastic game on the 18th of October, watching those two go at it. And then India play Bangladesh on the 19th. And that's going to be an exciting game, because those two sides always come together and have fiery encounters. So this tournament is shaping up as being just superb. Looking forward to tomorrow's match. Australia have got Sri Lanka. If either side are going to make the semi-finals, it's a must-win game for both of those teams. I think either one of those teams lose and they're out. But then, Sri Lanka have got England the game after that. So if they can beat Australia, they'll go into an England side that is hurting. They'll have lost 2 out of their last 3. It's just going to be an absolute delight these next couple of days in the World Cup.
How you feeling about Aussie? Big, as you say, big game. They've got to get back on track. Sri Lanka's bowling's been all over the place so far in this World Cup. They're leaking runs. How you feeling? Aussie going to make drastic changes again? Are we going to, what are we going to see from them tomorrow? Do you think it's the bounce back? They've had an enormous amount of criticism over the past couple of days.
I mean, Australia have, but they've underperformed. I think, it is fair to say that India and South Africa have played some really, really good cricket in their other games, other than the ones where they sort of towed Australia up. But Australia's preparation, or maybe more to the point, the execution of their skills on the field has been below the standard that Australia would set for themselves inside that playing group. And remember that it's a group driven by the players, and driven by the players setting their own standards through guys like Pat Cummins as the captain. They'll be bitterly disappointed that, having set the standards for themselves, they've let themselves down. And they really have let themselves down, particularly as far as their out cricket is concerned. The things that we talked about as potentially being issues have been issues through the first 2 games. Australia have been poor against spin. They have lost wickets regularly and without contribution in the middle order. And those are 2 areas that Sri Lanka can really exploit and put Australia under a lot of pressure. Sri Lanka have enough firepower in their batting lineup, particularly with someone like Kusal Mendis, that can go big against Australia at the top of the order. And that has been a problem for Australia in both games, in that they've had one batter, or sometimes 2, that's gone on and made a really, really big score against them. And Mendis is in great form. So there are some real concerns for Australia. We've changed our wicketkeeper. And I think if we're going to make that change, we have to stick with that change. There's no point in flip-flopping back and forth between Carey and Inglis. If we're going to say that, okay, Carey is not our man in the middle order, Inglis is, then we're going to have to pick and stick with him now. Otherwise, there was no point in dropping Carey in the first place. So having made the tough decision, I think Australia have to stick with it. I think it's a case of, same team, better batting, better bowling, better catching for Australia. Honestly, we need to get more out of our middle order. We've got absolutely 0 from them in the first 2 games. We need to get more from our pace bowlers, because other than Hazelwood's performance at the beginning of the India game, we've got not very much from them. We got a little bit. In fact, we got some pretty pleasing performances from Maxwell with spin. but we haven't got anything from Zampa yet, and our catching's been historically poor. So there's nowhere to go but up for Australia. The challenge is going to be, is it going to be too little too late? Because if we lose to Sri Lanka, the tournament's over, and we may as well just roll out the second string 11 for the rest of the tournament, because you can't come back from losing the first 3 games of a tournament like this and still make the semi-final. Sorry, but it's just not possible.
I can't add much to that. I can't add much at all. It's going to be a fascinating game to see how Australia bounce back. Massive congratulations to Afghanistan on their performance today. I hope they go out and enjoy themselves and really revel on this win for the next 3 or 4 days. Don't do any training before the New Zealand game and just go into that game completely cold, because we do need to make sure New Zealand win that game. But yeah, thanks again for joining us this morning, Baldy. It's been a pleasure once again. For listeners to the show, look out. We've got another episode for you landing later this afternoon. It's all coming thick and fast from the Top Water Podcasts. Mike Hesson, an interview with him. Excellent chat with. He's so impressive as a cricket mind, and I certainly learnt a lot from chatting to him. Just throwing in little comments about tactics and all this stuff that I guess just never goes through my mind as a cricket watcher. But someone like him with such experience. It's a very good listen, so I do encourage you all to check that out in your feed later on this afternoon. But we'll be back again doing this all again tomorrow, and enjoy the rest of your day.